In today's video, I'm going to share with you how you can reinvent your love life in just 2 months. Reinvigorate, massively change your perspective, and also the results you've been getting with men and with dating. Creating the commitment that you want, even if it hasn't happened for the last few months or the last few years. And the analogy I want to share to start this off is, maybe from your perspective, you've tried everything and nothing seems to be working. Maybe guys are showing up on dating apps only wanting friends with benefits. Maybe the past relationships you've had have been filled with painful situations, with blind spots, and the guys ended up not committing or betraying you in some way. Imagine that you're attempting to grow a beautiful garden, and for whatever reason, it's just not growing. And lo and behold, after a few years of attempting these feat, a guy or a woman who's actually slightly more skilled in the area of growing gardens shares with you that the shovel you've been using isn't strong enough to go underneath the rocks that are the real root cause why your garden's not growing. Unbeknownst to you, there's limestone underneath that's not permitting the roots to set in. So you get some help and you remove those stones and you learn the art of composting, which metaphorically speaking also means the art of getting something that's decaying, something that's not working, and making it work for you. And when you do that, not only do you find that the garden that you thought was not available starts growing, but you start enjoying it and are able to move on to different and better challenges ahead. Now, the video that I'm going to share with you right now is going to be divided up into different parts. I have some notes here because this is a little longer than usual. My recommendation is, if you're listening to this right now and you're not able to write notes, totally cool. Get the concepts inside, make sure that it makes sense for you, and then at some point make the commitment to come back to this video and watch it again and do the exercises. I can't emphasize strongly enough how just listening to this might create a small change, but doing the exercises will create a big change. And I'm not just sharing this from a place of, I read this in Cosmo magazine and I think it works, or I think that this might work based on a YouTube video that I watched. I've been helping clients from different continents, different walks of life for the last almost 13 years to create the relationships that they've never had before, that have eluded them for decades sometimes, and finally create the attraction and the commitment that they've been looking for. And these are some of the principles that I've been guiding them through. I'm not going to hold anything back. At the risk of this video being longer than usual and not maybe as entertaining as I would like it to be to capture your attention, if you really want to create the love life that you've been hoping for and take some time to go through this, I can promise you a different reality than the one you've been experiencing. Phase one is going to be a phase where I need you to pause dating for a second and fall in love with your life and identify what's stopping you. The reason why I say pause dating is because if you've been at this for a while and it doesn't seem to be working, taking one step back to be able to make 100 steps forward seems like the thing to do, even if it's counterintuitive. It's all about coming back to life. Coming back to life means that there's going to be a feeling, a vibration, a presence that you're putting out into the world, that if you've been jaded, if you've been hurt, if you've been frustrated, if you've been disappointed, more likely than not, is not at the frequency that it needs to be at for you to get the most of what you want. And I'm a firm believer that in life, you don't just get what you think or what you hope for, you get who you are and what you bring to the table energetically. So it makes sense for you to fall in love with your life. Listen to this thing. You're asking for a guy to come and completely fall in love head over heels with you. But if that's not happening within your own life, you're asking for something that's not a match in return. So the first thing that's going to help you to create a massive shift in the way you're experiencing life is more movement. And the way I frame movement is anything that makes you feel alive, ideally in the mornings. When you wake up, the most likely situation for many people is to start their day, look at their phone, start getting bogged down with bad news, check their email, take a quick shower, have a bad breakfast, and then go to work. And if you take the conscious time to move more powerfully, to move with more intention, to dance perhaps, to do something that fills you up with a feeling of excitement. And here's the thing, you may not feel like doing it. So you're not going to do this because it feels great before you do it. You're going to do it because it feels great after you do it. After a while, you might start to feel great while you do it. But at the beginning, I only need you to start moving more. The next thing I need you to do is to find more sources of inspiration. And that means anything from watching inspirational content to curating songs that make you feel inspired to writing and journaling, to reading biographies, anything that you can put into your life that creates a feeling of there's more out there than my current reality, where you can see that maybe people who've gone through hell and back and are living the kind of life you want, will start putting in your mind the possibility of what can happen instead of the here's as far as I can go. Next thing is gratitude. Start a practice of gratitude in week number 1. That means not just take the time to say I'm happy for my house, for my parents, for my children, for no. I mean, that's a good start, but I need you to go deeper and start feeling the gratitude in your heart. There's a huge difference between saying I'm happy because of this, then closing your eyes, playing some music, and feeling it in such a way that you could drop down to your knees with a feeling of I have more than enough. Next thing that I need you to start doing in week number 1 is start finding self-soothing mechanisms, not for if life were to happen in a shitty way, but when life happens in a shitty way, what are going to be your default break free from the pain expressions that you step into? And I recommend movement is a strong one. Conscious breathing, something I recommend is inhale to the count of 4, hold for a second, exhale to the count of 8. If you are to repeat this for 10 times, what will happen is if you feel triggered, if you feel disappointed, instead of going into a spiral loop of life sucks, to be able to get out of it in 30 minutes versus 3 hours makes a huge difference. And here's the biggest challenge I've seen when I've helped clients to get out of this feeling of life is not working for me. When you take the time to physically get out of emotions that don't serve you after you've experienced them, you get out of them much faster. And when you get out of them much faster, you have so much more room in your day to get what you want. I look at it as scratching a record that's playing a sad song, and you scratch it enough times where you can't play that sad song again. That's the power of you when life gets to you, when the guy shows up and it's not the right guy, when you go through 10 dates and none of them are the guy that you're looking for, that you take a moment of consciousness to break free from it and imagine what you really want. That's week number 1. Now, week number 1 is very important because there's going to be things that I'm asking you to do in other weeks that are only going to stay for 1 week. Week number 1 is a practice that I need you to continue throughout the 8 weeks of this process. Week number 2 is going to be about identifying and rewriting your primary story. If you were to write on a piece of paper the headline, "The reason why I haven't found love is," fill in the blank, and don't censor yourself, even if there's things that you think, intellectually doesn't make sense, but emotionally it gets to me. I need you to take the time, nonstop, to write down as many reasons as you can think of why you haven't found love. And then I want you to take an additional amount of time to prioritize the ones that you think are most important to you, the ones that you feel are strongest. And then once you've done that, from that long list, cut it down into 6 beliefs that may or may not be true, but they feel true for you as to why you haven't found love. For example, you might say to yourself, I haven't found love because men don't want commitment, or I haven't found love because apps suck and everybody relies on apps these days. I haven't found love because I live in a city where there's not enough men out there who want to connect with me. I haven't found love because I never saw the example of possibilities that I needed to when I was growing up, so I don't even know what healthy love looks like. I need you to come up with ideas such as this if you firmly believe in them, even intellectually if you think you shouldn't, and put them down on a piece of paper, the top 6 ones. And then I want you to rewrite them in a way that feels more empowering. Where, for example, if your belief that you come up with is, I can't connect with guys because I'm old, and guys only want young women, the new belief is, I'm young and guys want women of all ages. If that's what you write down, your brain is not going to believe it. It's going to say, this is BS. Give me something better, right? So the way I look at beliefs, and you consciously writing your own beliefs instead of just buying into something that you unconsciously stepped into that doesn't even make sense for you anymore, is for you to create beliefs that are higher level truths. For example, if you have a belief that says men only want sex, your new belief might look something like the higher level truth, I only invest time in men who can delay gratification. It's true that some guys only want sex, but you choose to only connect with, vet, and give your energy and insight and time to guys who are able to delay gratification. So your brain can hold on to that. You're not telling your brain every guy is looking for a serious commitment, because that's not true. But you are saying, as long as I'm willing to vet men differently, as long as I'm willing to lay down some cool boundaries, as long as I'm willing to only engage with long-term men who want to delay gratification and who want an emotional commitment instead of just physical and sexual commitment, then I'm good. I can work with that. Give you another example. Guys take advantage of my kindness. Let's say that's the belief you come up with. The new belief would be something like, I learn to set better boundaries. So long as you set better boundaries, guys who want to take advantage of your kindness are not going to be in your life, right? So that's week number 2. Create your new 6 beliefs in week number 2, and then take time once a day, ideally in the morning, to read them. If you can more than once a day, even better. Now, the things that I'm sharing with you right now are the minimums. If you're an overachiever or if you want to get the result faster, then if you do them more than once, then you'll be able to, you'll be higher up on that ramp up to get what you want. Now, right now, we're at a point in the year, as I'm recording this, where you could, because there's 3 more months on this year, wake up at the beginning of next year in the highest position to enter the best relationship of your life, instead of what most people do, which is skip around this year, start with resolutions for the first week of next year, and then do nothing. And then by the second week, they're done with them, and they're going to have the same bad relationship year that they've always had. You can change this, but it's going to take a little discomfort and you doing things and taking some time out of your busy schedule, which I understand is busy, to do some things that maybe you haven't done before. The last thing I'll say about week number 2 is I want you to find the gift in the mud. What I mean by that is there's going to be multiple experiences that you've gone through, even traumas in your life, that you have every right, if you choose to hold on to as the reason why you can't go to the next level, you can't experience the love that you want. And I'm not trying to minimize those or diminish them in any way. What I'm inviting you to do right now is to see if you can potentially, perhaps, find a gift in those experiences. I've talked about in some of my videos the painful experience of getting beaten up when I was growing up. I would never recommend that to anyone. I would discourage any parent from ever hitting their children. It was a horrible experience. It created shame in my life and multiple other challenges that I've had to deal with. However, the fact that I went through it gave me a sensitivity to pain and a connection to abuse that I've worked on so hard so that my children never experienced it the way I did. So I could say this was the worst experience of my life, or as a result of what I went through right now, I can, if I choose to, even though it's painful and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone, use it for me instead of against me. And that's my recommendation for you right now. Is there a space in your life today to not minimize what happened or trivialize it or put it under the rug, but to say, can I use this so other people in my situation don't have to suffer to what I went through? And if so, if you can find a spiritual meaning in what took place, you're so much further ahead, because you can't simultaneously feel a lot of pain and a lot of gratitude for what happened. So I'm asking you and inviting you to feel grateful for the lessons you can now extract from it, because you went through something painful. Before I go into the next few weeks, I'm going to make an invitation to you right now. And that is, if you are a single woman and have been single for some time and haven't figured out what's really going on, I've created a quiz that can share with you in 60 seconds or so the number 1 reason why you're still single. I've taken a lot of work and insight and working with women who've achieved the love that you may be seeking right now, and came up with a very simple framework to identify the true root cause of why you're still single. All you have to do, if you want to get your answer, is go to the first link on the description of this video, and you will see a page that looks like this. And if you answer a few simple questions, you'll have 2 things. You'll have the answer to the question why you're still single, and then also a report that's going to share with you what is the number 1 thing you can do today to get the love you want much faster, based on your specific blind spot. Now, week number 3. Week number 3 is all about strengthening your courage muscles. So what does that mean? Well, think about it this way. If you want to get strong for skiing, you're going to exercise your legs in such a way that when you go skiing, you're prepared for it and your legs aren't hurting midway down the mountain. Same thing is true with emotions. There's emotions that we don't use as often as we need to. As a result of that, they start becoming weaker. And one of those emotions for most of us is the muscle of courage. It's really challenging for you to put yourself out there in a way that's going to be meaningful and different from anything you've experienced in your life if you don't develop more courageous muscles as it relates to connecting with men, vetting men properly, doing new things that you haven't done before, and as a result of that, a new experience. So strengthening your courage muscles is very simple in the framework I'm about to give you. I need you to start making more decisions. What are some decisions you've been waiting on? What are some decisions that you've been postponing? What are some decisions that, if you really think deep down, you may have, maybe even for years, and you can take one step to getting closer to your resolution. So I need for you to start making decisions this week about things that matter to you. And start with something simple if you need to, and then grow from there. Next thing I want you to think about this week is who needs to transition. Means that there's guys in your life, perhaps right now, who shouldn't be in your life. There's friends with benefits, or guys that you maybe didn't close the loop fully with before. Guys who are wishy-washy about you, you know they don't want commitment, but you're afraid of asking the question, and as a result of that, you've been on this hot and cold experience for months or even years. So what I need you to do right now is make a list of everyone with whom you need higher clarity with, and start closing those doors. If there's a guy who's not interested in a relationship and you are, and you're still giving him time and connecting with him and calling yourselves just friends, even though what you want is more than that, and what he wants is more, but not with commitment, that you have the courage to make decisions around cutting them out of your life. It's incredibly hard for you to say, I'm going to create the connection that I want, and when I find that connection, I'll let go of these things. It's rare that that happens because you have an open loop, and open loops remove the hunger for you to get what you want. It's like saying you're getting a heart attack, and instead of going to the hospital to get heart surgery, you take an aspirin so the symptoms subside, and you no longer feel like you have to go to the hospital. You're still dying inside, but you're self-medicating. So stop self-medicating with connections with people, men specifically, who shouldn't be in your life, and start cutting them out of your life one by one. By the time you put yourself out there again, because right now, as you remember, I'm asking you not to date for the first few weeks. When you put yourself out there, you have a high degree of integrity, high degree of courage, and high degree of self-love. And the last thing I'll say for about week number 3 is I need you to make the decision to have one act of courage each day. It could be cutting off one guy that you need to cut things with, clarifying something with a guy who's been hinging on hot and cold. It might be calling someone up that you need to make amends with, that you've been scared about doing that, but you're going to make the decision to do it. It might mean taking a new class, like dance classes that you've been hoping for and maybe wishing for the perfect time, and there's never a perfect time, but now. So you do that. Maybe it's asking for a promotion at work. You're going to take the time in this week to every single day grow your muscles of courage so that by the time you're done, you can start feeling you're becoming a stronger version of yourself. You're not becoming a different human being. You're expressing yourself as the true person that's inside your heart that you've actually been denying. Week number 4, we're moving fast here. So this is the last week of the first month. And this week is about getting real and identifying and ranking your true values. Here's what I mean by that. There's 2 types of values that any human being steps into. The first one is going to be idealized values. If I ask you right now, what do you value most in life? You might say something along the lines of freedom and courage and love and inspiration and gratitude. And all those things are great as a principle. But if you look at your life over the last 12 months, maybe the last 2 years, does your current life reflect the values that you're telling yourself that you step into? So perhaps you've been valuing security more than you need to. Perhaps you've been valuing control more than you care to admit. Perhaps you've been valuing drama even more than you willingly share with a group of people. So my ask of you in this week is that you write down, after taking a deep dive as to where your life is right now, what are the true values that your life right now, if somebody were to take a snapshot of your life and they were to dissect based on the way you show up in life, based on the type of work you do, based on the connection you have with people around you, the risks you're taking, what does this person value for their life to be this way? And not for you to look down upon yourself or to punish yourself, but for you to have a clear map of where things stand right now so we can change them. It's really hard to change something you're not aware of or you don't think needs changing, but once you recognize, here's what I really stand in terms of values, then you'll see that there's a gap between where you see yourself and where you really are. And then the beautiful thing is, how do you close that gap? And that, we're going to talk about that soon as well. Once you come up with the values that you know you're stepping into, the second list, which is far more exciting, is to come up with a list of, based on the life that you want, on the relationship that you're seeking, on the type of connection you're seeking, what are the values that would take you there? Maybe you need to value love more than you have. Maybe you need to value self-respect more than you have. Maybe you need to value compassion or kindness or determination or action more than you have. So I'm not here to tell you what values you should embody. I'm here to invite you to come up with a list of something that excites you, that the type of human being that lives those values can get to what you want. Week number 5 is about coming up with what you really want in a relationship and who you must be to get there. So the first list I want you to write is, what do you value most in a man? And specifically, what are the top 10 attributes? If you could only choose 10 values or 10 things or 10 characteristics about a guy, what would be those qualities that you're seeking in him? Second list I want you to write is the non-negotiables. What are the top 3 non-negotiables? So think about specifically for you, other than something blatantly obvious, what are non-negotiables for you? Maybe you want children, and a guy who doesn't want children is non-negotiable. Maybe you are someone who loves traveling, and if a guy that you're with doesn't like traveling, you're going to be traveling alone for the rest of your life, and you say, no, I don't want that. Maybe for you, physical contact is incredibly important, and connecting with someone who's not really close physically would not work for you. Think about it in terms of specificity. What are the 3 most important non-negotiables for you? Next list is really powerful. Most people fall short of it, because most human beings, when they write the list of what they want and who they want to be with, don't write the list of who they need to be a worthy match to that which you're seeking. So who do I need to be? And by that, I want you to find out, what are the values, what are the characteristics, what are the qualities that the person that you are seeking would find a no-brainer to say, yes, I'm with you. And here's a caveat. I'm not asking you to say that person would need to be with someone 20 years younger and far more beautiful. That's BS. I'm asking you to think of values that are within your grasp, that if you were to change those things, you would find an easier time. Maybe more positivity, maybe more expression, maybe more softness of heart, maybe more confidence. What is the gap between the type of human being who is a resonant, hell yes type of match for the man you're looking for, and how you're stepping in today? Here's the thing. If you've been at this for a while, if you've been saying, I want to find love, and you haven't found it, and there perhaps are some cosmetic things that you're going for that aren't serving you, or you're only going for the CEO type, or for the guy who's 6 foot tall, or for someone who has something very unique and special that is not the most essential thing you need to be going for, I want you to be honest with yourself and say, I'm willing to compromise on height. I'm willing to compromise on the income level that I'm going for, or the education degree that the guy must have, so long as he's intelligent, so long as he has a cool thing that he's going for, including a job, then I may be willing to compromise on the degree that he has. I'm not here to say that's the one you should change things on. I'm just asking you to be more open and to be more aware that there might be some qualities you're going for that aren't serving you and that are not necessary for you to get an incredible relationship, even though you've been telling yourself they are. Week number 6, we're getting further ahead right now. We're getting close to the finish line here, and that's going to be, I want you to come up with new values based on what you really want. And for those new values, I need you to come up with rules for your values. So for example, if you said the type of person that I want to become values courage and values flirtatiousness and values open-heartedness and values commitment, I mean, the things that are top maybe 10, 12 for you, I need you to come up with rules that make it possible for you to know when you're experiencing those things. When you have values and you don't have a clear path to meeting those values, you may never experience them. So you would write new rules for your values in week number 6 that go something along the lines of, well, if one of your values is courage, then what needs to happen for you to feel courageous? And if the rule you've had before is maybe a rule like, I need to do something that's heroic in nature, how many times in life will that happen? But if you say, I allow myself to experience courage when I make a decision that was challenging and I step up to the plate. Maybe I allow myself to feel courageous when I stand up straight and I take a breath, and I move forward even with fear. Maybe allow myself to feel courageous when I say something to someone that is difficult to say but that needs to be said. I'm just giving you examples right now. I just want you to think about the new values that you wrote for yourself, the new values you want to embody, the new values that would make it a hell yes match for the type of guy you're going for. And I need you to come up with rules, maybe 5 or 6 rules for each value that stand alone would give you the experience of it, so that when you're going through your day, instead of saying, hey, I did something difficult, I expressed something difficult to my boss, for example, you said, I was courageous today. So you can experience your values every single day. And guess what happens when you're the type of person who knows you're living your values every single day? It's going to be easier for you to set boundaries with men. It's going to be easier for you to know what you're bringing to the table instead of fearing like the guy is something of a pedestal for where you are right now. You become clear about your value in the world, and you become clear about stating what you want and what you need without saying like you're asking for too much. This process, once you step into the last two weeks, which are more about the connection and the strategy around meeting guys, it's not about meeting a guy. That's a byproduct of what you're doing, but it's about getting a better life. So not a better guy, a better life. And the better life also gets you a better guy. The second phase of this process, the last 2 weeks, is what I call Robert meets the road, put yourself out there again. Okay? So when you've taken the time to rewire your nervous system in certain ways, to recognize the values that you bring to the table, to get clear on what you want, and also what the gap is between what you want and what you need to step into. When you recognize that there's beliefs that are preventing you from getting what you want, and you have the courage to say, no, this is the truth, when you're moving every single morning, when you're breaking through fears, emotions that are debilitating, not just with your mind, but with physiology and with gratitude and with scratching that record through changing your biochemistry, then when you take the step of putting yourself out there, there's more of you to shine in the world. You're in a higher elevation emotionally that makes it easier for guys to identify you and more attractive. You're more radiant, you're more expressive. When someone carries a deep light inside of them, when someone is stepping up in big ways in their lives and they're shining with courage, with possibility, then you're the kind of person who, without trying so hard, feel more resonant to the men around you. Week number 7 is create an organic dating plan. I start with organic and not online because if you are great, even good, at creating connections with men in everyday life, you'll find that the process of online dating is far more fruitful and less painful. If you rely solely on online to create the connections you want, it's going to feel far more challenging and frustrating, and when your app doesn't deliver the type of caliber of guys that you want on a given week, then your dating week sucked. So I want to make sure that instead of waiting for rain, you can make it rain. Creating organic connections with men is equivalent to making it rain when there's a drought. So the first principle that's going to allow you to create connections with men in everyday life is detachment. Detach yourself from the feeling that something has to come from that interaction. Detach yourself from the needing to get validated by that guy. Detach yourself from the goal that that guy has to ask for your number. If your only goal for connecting with more men in your everyday life is high goal, you want to find your life partner, but short goal with that guy is to express yourself in a deeper way, to be more courageous, to be more self-expressed, to not die with your music inside of you, what you will find is that you'll be able to get through any level of rejection far more quickly. And that because you're not asking for anything of that guy, you're coming from a place of giving and sharing and expressing, that you will have far more men who want to connect with you that maybe before would have never connected with you. The second principle to embody if you want to create connections with a man is remove the fear of rejection from them. The only type of guy who's going to connect with you without needing to get any signal from you is the type of guy that perhaps you don't want in your life. If there's a guy that maybe you're uninterested and you're looking away and he breaks through walls and barbed wire and metaphorical punches through the concrete to reach your heart, he's not reading the signals. You want a guy who's able to be in tune. If you're open, he connects with you. If you're not open, he gives you the space that you need. So if you're not getting approached by men in everyday life, it's more likely than not because you're not creating enough openings. You're not dropping the handkerchief enough times. You're not creating enough eye contact. You're not smiling at men when you connect with them. You're not getting physically closer where they can approach you. You're not initiating conversations by, mentioning anything, the day, the weather, if you like their watch or their suit. You can say anything to get a conversation going, so long as you are not attached to the outcome. And the goal of that interaction is to help you be more courageous. And guess what happens when you do it this way? When you flirt more, when you're more open, when you make more eye contact, you find yourself in situations, great situations that you wouldn't have found yourself before in, and going on dates that would have never happened through the online dating app that you're using. Great men are everywhere. I hear the comment and the complaint from women that guys are nowhere to be found, and I understand the sentiment. I wasn't born yesterday, and I've worked with enough women to know that sometimes that feels like it's the case. The truth is, great men are everywhere. Great men are at the subway station, are behind you in Starbucks when you're too busy watching your phone, at the dog park, at the rock climbing gym, at that meetup that you refuse to go to, at the party that you say no thanks because you're super tired, mostly because your job is too demanding. Great men are at the movie theater. Great men are at the restaurant. Great men are at the tennis court, at the football game, at the political rally, you name it. Great men are everywhere if you know how to create openings and also how to say no thanks when the guy that approaches you is not the guy you want to connect with. Week number 8, once you've accomplished so much, is about creating an online dating plan. Now that you've done the organic, that you're getting better at that, an online dating plan is the next thing to do. And there's so much we can talk about. We can have a video that's longer than this just on the online stuff. But what I'll say to you right now that matters most is a picture is worth 1,000 words online. That means take the time. You don't have to get a professional picture taken, but take the time to get someone who cares about you, not just you, unless you have a great tripod on a phone that's great, to take a picture of you. The most important thing in the picture is not the clothes you're wearing or how thin you look, it's the expression of your face as you're connecting with that camera. When you can get a few pictures in a few different settings where the expression of you, your radiance, your light, your magic is shining through a little bit more, those pictures will create far more responses for you than a cold picture or a selfie that's badly lit. I know that guys don't necessarily take great pictures online, and many women don't either. Be outstanding, be the exception rather than the rule, and take a little bit more time to have more of your expression shine through. If you need to dance or move or listen to music or watch something that really makes you feel connected before you take those pictures, do that. It will play out for you. When you're writing a profile, whether it's a long profile in an app like Match or a super short profile like in Hinge or Bumble, show me, don't tell me. What I mean by that is, don't say, I'm happy and connected and gentle and kind. Like, everybody can say that. Share an example that makes it clear. Share the specific songs you like to dance to, or the specific type of music you like to hear, or your favorite spot in the world to travel to and why, rather than, I love traveling. That's boring. Everybody can say that. My favorite spot in the world is this. That matters more and weighs more. So whenever possible, don't use adjectives. Use explanations, use situations, use short experiences that can shine a light on who you are inside. Follow the 1% rule. What's the 1% rule? 1% rule means that 99% of what's out there, 98 to 99% is not going to be a fit for you. So if you enter online secretly hoping that 30 or 40 or 50% of the guys you connect with are great, not only will you be in for a big disappointment, you're going to think it's not working. Here's the thing. We're living in a day and age where you can sit down in your bathroom, taking a bath, and swipe left and right and connect with thousands of human beings in ways that your grandma, if she wanted to connect with a guy, would have to go through maybe 1,000 parties and across maybe her lifetime. And you can do that in one evening because it's a low barrier of entry. It means that you're not going to find more than 1% of matches who really make sense to you. If you buy into that concept beforehand and you go through 20, 30 guys who are not the right fit, instead of saying this shit doesn't work, you can say, you know what, I need to connect with 70 more guys right now. And it doesn't take long to do that before I find someone who's better of a match for me. Next step that you need to do for online dating that's fruitful instead of challenging and painful is you need to qualify better. That means 2 things. You need to be willing to ask questions early on, including what the guy is going for, looking for, needing in a relationship, so that you don't create a false sense of the guy showing up super strong because he's interested and perhaps even horny, and you confuse that with a guy who has a long-term vision that's similar to yours. Qualify early. And if the guy doesn't know what he wants, if he wants something vastly different from what you want, then don't go on dates with him. Next part of this is take it offline. I can't tell you how many women, they're taking weeks to connect with guys, back and forth on messages, before they actually go on a date or get on a video call. That's the longer you go without having a real experience with that human being, the more likely you're falling for an illusion, or that you have a big discrepancy between what you imagine and what the guy is. So after a few conversations, take it offline. Invite the guy to get on a video call with you. If a guy is not asking you on a date, and you set a boundary such as, you know what, I'm not great at connecting with people on the app. If you ever want to connect with me outside the app, let me know. You're basically in many ways stating, I'm not going to be your pen pal. Then if he asks you on a date, next step is say, hey, let's get on a video call first. Why? Because a video call is going to share with you so much more than just a phone call or an app conversation. And you might decide on that video call that the guy is not the type of guy you want based on the way he shows up. Maybe he's 20 years older than his pictures. Maybe he has a creepy energy that you didn't catch early on. But you'll go on better dates. Fewer dates, but better dates if you do take this extra step of connecting with a guy on video. If the guy doesn't want to connect with you on video, say I'm out. If he doesn't understand this day and age that you as a woman have far more risk than him, he doesn't want to take the 3-minute big tall order of getting on a video call with you, then choose not to connect with him. The last thing that I'll share with you today is once you're stepping into this plan, you need to take some time once a week, maybe 20 minutes a week, to review what's going on in each one of these categories, your physiology, the beliefs, the values, the offline dating, the online dating. If you take some time to catch things early instead of going through a month or 2 months without really evaluating how things are progressing, you'll find that you catch things early and you hold yourself accountable. You'll find that maybe you need to plan more specific time slots in your week for self-care, or more times in your week for connecting with guys. If you take the time to implement this plan, I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, but in 2 months, you could have a situation that is the closest you've been to in your lifetime to create the connection with the type of guy you're going for. Hope this is helpful and useful. If it is, it would mean the world to me if you click like and subscribe to my video. And if you find this is helpful and you'd like to continue learning how you can attract the guy you want without the need for gimmicks, manipulation, games, or stupid techniques, make sure to watch the next video right here.